GPS said it would take 4 hours to drive from Phoenix to Flagstaff. I'd made the trip dozens of times, knew every mile marker and rest stop along the way. It was a straight shot up I-17, through the desert, past the rock formations and into the mountains. Simple. But 45 minutes into the drive, I saw an exit that shouldn't have existed. The sign read Millbrook 15 miles in the familiar green and white of Arizona highway markers. The problem was that Millbrook wasn't a real place. I'd grown up in Arizona, had driven this route since I was 16, and there had never been a town called Millbrook anywhere near I-17. I almost drove past it. Should have driven past it, but curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself taking the exit, following a 2-lane road that curved through desert landscape that looked subtly wrong. The cacti were too tall, the rock formations too smooth, the sky a shade of blue that didn't quite match the Arizona I knew. The road led through a mountain pass I'd never seen before. And then suddenly I was driving down Main Street of a town that looked like it had been transplanted from the classic storefronts with hand-painted signs, vintage cars parked along the curbs, people dressed in clothing that seemed decades out of date. I pulled into a parking space in front of a diner called Rosie's, its neon sign flickering in the afternoon sun. Through the windows I could see customers sitting at red vinyl booths, a waitress in a period-appropriate uniform carrying a coffee pot between tables. My phone showed no signal, which wasn't unusual in rural Arizona. But when I checked my GPS, the app showed only a blank screen. No roads, no location marker, just empty space where I should have been. I walked into the diner, and conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at me, with expressions that ranged from curious to concerned. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with perfectly styled hair, approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're not from around here," she said. It wasn't a question. "Just passing through," I replied, taking a seat at the counter. I was driving to Flagstaff, and saw the exit. "Flagstaff?" She exchanged glances with the cook, visible through the kitchen window. "That's quite a ways from here. According to my GPS, it should be about 3 hours north." The cook came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. He was a large man with kind eyes and graying hair. "Son, I think you might be a bit confused about where you are. I'm in Millbrook, right? You're in Millbrook," the waitress confirmed, "but there's no I-17 around here. Never has been." A chill ran down my spine. "What's the nearest major highway?" "Route 66, the cook said. "About 20 miles east. But that's been closed for years, ever since the incident." "What incident?" The diner fell silent. Even the old-fashioned jukebox in the corner seemed to quiet down, though I couldn't remember hearing music when I'd entered. "Maybe you should have some coffee," the waitress suggested, pouring a cup without waiting for my answer. "Settle your nerves a bit." The coffee was perfect. Rich, hot, exactly the way coffee should taste, but rarely does. As I sipped it, I studied the other customers more carefully. They were all dressed in clothing from different eras, some from the 50s, others from the 60s or 70s, but all of it looked new, not vintage or costume-like. "Excuse me," I said to a man in a 1960s style suit sitting at the next stool. "What year is it?" He looked at me strangely. "It's 19... "No," I said. "It's 2024. The man laughed. "Son, you must have hit your head. It's October 15th, 1987. Always has been. Always has been." The phrase stuck in my mind as I looked around the diner again. Everyone was frozen in their respective time periods, but they all agreed on this impossible date. "I need to go," I said, standing up and putting money on the counter. The waitress looked at the bills with confusion. "This isn't real money," she said. "The design is all wrong. And what's this date? 2019. I looked at the $20 bill I'd placed on the counter. To me, it looked perfectly normal, but to her, it apparently looked like counterfeit currency from the future. "Keep it," I said, backing toward the door. "I need to get back to the highway." "There's no highway," the cook called after me. "Just the road you came in on. And that doesn't go anywhere you'd want to end up." I rushed outside, but my car wasn't where I'd parked it. In its place was a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, pristine and gleaming as if it had just rolled off the assembly line. Panic set in. I ran up and down the street, looking for my Honda Civic, but it was nowhere to be found. Every car parked along Main Street was vintage, from different decades but all perfectly maintained. "Looking for something?" asked a voice behind me. I turned to see a man in his 30s, wearing a 1970s-style leather jacket and jeans. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place where I might have seen him before. "My car," I said. "It was right here." "Blue Honda?" he asked. "2018 model?" "Yes, did you see where it went?" He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "It went back where it came from, where you should go to if you're smart." "I don't understand." "Millbrook isn't a place you can drive to," he explained. "It's a place you end up, usually when you're running away from something, or when you take a wrong turn at just the right moment." I wasn't running away from anything. I was just driving to Flagstaff. "Were you?" He studied my face carefully. "No job interview you were dreading? No relationship falling apart? No feeling like your life was stuck in a rut, and you needed to escape?" The truth was, all of those things were true. I was driving to Flagstaff for a job interview I didn't want. For a position that would solve my financial problems, but kill my dreams of being a writer. My girlfriend had been hinting about moving in together, and I'd been avoiding the conversation because I wasn't sure I wanted that level of commitment. And yes, I'd been feeling trapped by the routine of my life, wishing I could just disappear and start over somewhere else. "Millbrook gives people what they think they want," the man continued. "A fresh start. A place where time doesn't matter, where the past and future don't exist. Just an eternal present where you can be whoever you want to be." "But that's impossible, is it?" He gestured to the town around us. "You're here, aren't you? In a place that doesn't exist on any map, where it's always 1987 but everyone's from different decades." I looked more carefully at the people walking past. A woman in 1920s fashion chatted with a teenager in 1980s punk clothing. A man in a 1940s zoot suit held hands with a woman in 1960s hippie attire. All of them looked content, but there was something vacant in their eyes, as if they were sleepwalking through their perfect lives. "How long have you been here?" I asked the man in the leather jacket. "Time doesn't work the same way here," he said. "Could be days, could be decades." I stopped counting after I realized it didn't matter. "Don't you want to leave?" I did at first. Spent months trying to find the road out, but every path just led back to Main Street. Eventually I realized this was better than what I'd left behind. "What did you leave behind?" His expression darkened. "Vietnam, 1973. I was supposed to ship out in a week, but I couldn't face it. Couldn't face coming home to tell my parents I was a coward. So I got in my car and just drove, hoping to disappear. And you ended up here. We all ended up here. Everyone in Millbrook was running from something. The town, it finds people like us, people who need a place to hide." I thought about my own life, my own reasons for wanting to escape, but hiding wasn't the same as living. "There has to be a way out," I said. "There is," he admitted reluctantly. "But it means facing what you were running from. Really facing it. Not just pretending you're ready to go back." "How?" He pointed down a side street I hadn't noticed before. "That road leads to the edge of town. Past the boundary, reality starts to reassert itself. But you have to mean it. You have to really want to leave, not just think you should want to. I started walking toward the side street, but his voice stopped me. Most people who try to leave end up back at the diner within an hour, he warned. The pull of Millbrook is strong. It's easier to stay here where nothing matters than to go back to a world where everything does. The side street was different from Main Street. The buildings were older, more weathered, and the perfectly maintained facades gave way to peeling paint and cracked windows. As I walked, I could feel the pull he'd mentioned, a subtle but insistent urging to turn around, to go back to the comfort and safety of the eternal present. But I kept walking. The street ended at a hill overlooking the town, and from this vantage point, I could see Millbrook for what it really was. The buildings flickered between different time periods, sometimes showing their 1950s perfection, sometimes revealing decay and abandonment. The people moved in loops, repeating the same conversations, the same actions, trapped in cycles of their own making. Beyond the hill, I could see deserts stretching to the horizon, and in the distance, a ribbon of black asphalt that had to be. My Honda Civic sat at the base of the hill, looking exactly as I'd left it. But as I started down the hill toward my car, the pull intensified. Images flashed through my mind: the job interview, the awkward conversation with my girlfriend, the bills piling up on my kitchen table, the rejection letters from publishers, the growing certainty that my dreams were unrealistic, and I was wasting my time pursuing them. It would be so easy to turn around, to go back to Millbrook where none of those problems existed, where I could be anyone I wanted to be, where time stood still and nothing ever changed. But that was exactly the problem. Nothing ever changed. I got in my car and drove away from Millbrook, following the desert road back to I-7. In my rearview mirror, I watched the town fade and shimmer like a mirage until it disappeared entirely. The job interview went badly, just as I'd expected. I didn't get the position, and my financial problems continued. My girlfriend and I had the conversation about moving in together, and it ended our relationship. The bills kept coming, and the rejection letters continued to arrive. But I also started writing again. Really writing, not just dreaming about it. I took a job that paid less, but gave me time to pursue my craft. I met new people, had new experiences, faced new challenges. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was mine. Sometimes late at night when I'm driving alone on Arizona highways, I see exits that don't belong there, signs pointing to towns that don't exist on any map. I'm always tempted to take those exits, to see what other escapes might be waiting. But I don't, because I've learned that the places we run to are never as real as the places we run from, and some wrong turns, no matter how tempting, only lead deeper into the maze. The road to Millbrook is always there, waiting for anyone who needs to disappear, but the road back to reality, that one you have to find for yourself.